Welcome into Boxing Scene Today here at the Pro Box TV studios. Well, celebrity has its privileges. I don't care where you are, what aspect of society you are in, but especially in boxing. We talk all the time about deserving title shots, deserving your place in the rankings. Let's face it, you have a name, you draw money, you come back big. And it doesn't get a whole lot bigger in the boxing world than Manny Pacquiao announcing his return. And guess what? WBC says he is fifth in the welterweight rankings. Does he deserve it? Where does he go? He should be fighting Barios later in the year. We'll discuss it right here. Jimmy Smith alongside the champs, Chris Algieri, Paulie Malignaggi, of course, Robert Garcia, coach, joining us. Where to even start? Chris, I'm just going to start with you. You shared time in the ring with Manny Pacquiao back when he was lightning fast, had real power. The last time out against Ordinas Ugas, what was it, 5 years ago, didn't look great in that fight. Ugas, a very, very solid welterweight, not an all-time great, but the idea that 5 years on, how good can he possibly look? Fifth in the world? Fifth at 157?
147, yeah.
I'm sorry, 147.
Yeah, I mean, I fought Pacquiao 11 years ago now. It's crazy. It feels like it was yesterday. And yes, I spent time with him in the ring, but I also spent time in the lead up to the fight. I've called his fight since as a commentator. I've interviewed him in fighter meetings. I've been around Manny Pacquiao quite a bit over the years. And, you mentioned celebrity has its advantages, right? But he's not just a celebrity. He's legendary. He's a legend in our sport. And that's where Mauricio Sulaiman is going with the WCs. Hey, someone of his stature, when they come back, they can get ranked. They don't have to be active. It's Manny Pacquiao. We're going to give him that grace. I don't love the fact that he's able to skip the line for the other contenders in the weight class, because you got guys who are literally banking their entire lives on these situations, getting title fights. And now they have to kind of take a seat to someone who hasn't fought in 4.5 years. But again, it's Manny Pacquiao. At the end of the day, what really matters, though, is the money. Manny Pacquiao brings in so much money and eyes and attention. He is a global star. He is not just a local celebrity. He is not just a boxing celebrity. He is a globally recognized human being. So him coming back into the sport gets a lot of eyes, a lot of money, and that's why ultimately these guys are going to push him into one of these big fights, which is most likely going to be a world title fight with Barios.
Paulie, you are always saying it. Rankings and titles should be about merit. We talk about money, talk about draws, talk about how much somebody brings in. You defer to that in a sense. But you always say rankings and titles should be about merit. What's your thought on this?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a silver lining here, right?
Yeah.
So there's the eyes come back to the welterweight division if you bring a Manny Pacquiao in, right? Because right now the welterweight division is
It's a desert.
I'm 44 years old. I don't think I've ever seen a welterweight division this bad this week in my life, And Pacquiao, sure, he's not the same. I mean, I think the Ugas loss really showed us that, he's lost several steps. He's had a very active boxing career, high impact. Usually that slows you down. He lasted longer than I thought he would have for a guy who has high impact kind of style like that. Take that as
8 weight classes.
Take that as you will. I know what I take it as, but we won't talk about it today. Nonetheless, he still was fading in the Ugas fight. It showed. And he went out, he retired, and then he did a couple of exhibitions. For all I didn't see the exhibitions. From what I heard, he didn't look great in.
We'll get to that in a second.
The Korean guy, right? Where I heard he actually got beat up in that exhibition. So I'm not sure what Manny Pacquiao has left. But you retire and then do exhibitions, so he was always kind of active, I guess, in that regard. I think he just felt like, at that point when he did retire, the welterweight division was too deep and he was losing too many steps, and he probably couldn't keep up. But
yeah, there was Terrence Crawford, there was Errol Spence, Ugas beats him.
But just like I've been saying that Mario Barrios sucks, obviously Manny Pacquiao sees Mario Barrios sucks. It's no offense. This is strictly business we're talking here. It's not a personal thing. I don't know Mario Barrios. I've probably met him one or twice in my life, I think, and I'm sure he's a good kid. And you know what? Bless him for winning a world title. No matter what situation what state the welterweight division is in, he's always going to be able to say he won a world championship. But nonetheless, I think Pacquiao and Team Pacquiao see that, and they're like, okay, if we are going to make our move, this is the welterweight division to make a move in. If it was too stacked and too deep, I don't think we'd see Manny Pacquiao coming back. I think there's a moment here where they see there's a moment to make a move, and when you have that name recognition, like the champ is saying, you can use that name recognition to push yourself forward, Not all of us have it that big as Manny did, but Manny accomplished a lot, so he's going to get a little bit of that more fair say. For me, my celebrity, it ended at about not having to wait in lines at nightclubs. Me, I got to cut all the lines at nightclubs, and I thought that was cool.
Right.
I never had to wait in line at any nightclubs I went to. I just went right in, in my day. And I thought it was cool. Manny Pacquiao gets to skip lines and all this other stuff. So, and he accomplished enough the way you do it. I'll tell you what the silver lining is, though. The silver lining is this. For all the other contenders that may be waiting, who honestly I don't think are that good, because we would see them if they were that good in this welterweight division. If you're even remotely decent, you'll probably
past 5 is pretty bad.
You're probably winning a world title if you're even remotely decent, So past the champions, we don't have a lot there. But if Manny Pacquiao is a world champion instead of Mario Barrios, because it's still a big if, because I don't even know if he's too shot to even beat Barios. Because let's remember, Barios did beat Ugas. Granted, it was an Ugas that got beat up by Spence afterwards, but nonetheless, Mario Barrios does have win over Ugas. If Pacquiao does win a championship, hey, for all the other contenders, there's more money to get a shot at Pacquiao. So you bring some life into the welterweight division for as long as Manny's around. But for all intents and purposes, who knows if he beats Mario Barrios? Is Manny Pacquiao so shot that he's just falling into a dead welterweight division and he's just adding to the deadness of it?
I would imagine
if he's not of quality.
I would imagine Barios would be the favorite.
What I'm curious about, let's ask Coach Robert Garcia. Paulie brings up a really good point. Of course, when you look at his age, 46 years old, what's everybody going to remember? George Foreman winning a heavyweight title at 45. But when you look at that, it was a similar kind of thing. Lennox Lewis had just lost. We had the trilogy with Holyfield and Bo kind of beating each other up. Tyson wasn't quite there. So there was this, like Paulie said, kind of a vacuum that Foreman was able to step in and win a heavyweight title. Is it a similar kind of thing here, or do you worry about a guy who relied on his speed and athleticism? Those don't age well. What's your thought on it, Coach?
I think we're gonna be worried about what happens in that fight, because Barrios may be the I don't want the easiest of the champions. Maybe that's why Manny decided to come back and give it a try. But even then, Barrios is young. Barrios is a strong guy, that could actually hurt Manny. Manny didn't look good in his last performance. This is a couple years ago, and it was kind of embarrassing to see Manny end up like that. Hopefully, he gets in great shape. Maybe he gets a really good nutritionist or somebody that's going to help him very well. But I don't see things going right with Manny at this point anymore. Hopefully I'm wrong. I would love to see him become champion again, because like Paulie said, it gives all the other guys, a big fight, a big opportunity. And maybe we'll see Floyd come back and do a rematch with Manny, and it'll be a huge fight. I don't know. I really don't know, but it might be sad to see Manny back in the ring. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I agree, Robert. I'm not looking forward to it, because I just think about aging brains don't take punches well. I mean, brains in general are not made to take punches, but just aging brains that definitely don't take punches as well as younger brains. But I'm not gonna go on something that Paulie said. So I'm not as negative on Mario Barrios as you are. I understand. I do agree he's the weakest link of the welterweights. I'm not gonna say anybody sucks. Who's become a world champion multiple times in multiple weight classes.
No,
but
one champion at 140.
He didn't win the title at 140.
Hell no.
Yes, he did. He beat.
He was champion at 140.
Who? Akhmedov for a main. Was it a main title, or was it one of those secondary ones? I don't count those secondary ones.
I can't tell you, but he won a strap at 140. So listen. So speaking about Barrios, and Coach, you can probably attest to this as well. There's a certain style that Manny has really made his bones on. He's actually better against taller opponents, for one. Think about Margarito was a guy that Margarito. He's better with guys who are tall. He's better at guys who fight heavy on their front foot. So guys who are tall, guys who fight heavy on their front foot, and guys who don't have a varied jab. I just named Mario Barrios.
Yeah.
He is a perfect.
Well, that's why I think he sucked.
Description of the kind of guy that Team Pacquiao has feasted on throughout the years. Now, I don't know how much is left of Manny. I don't know if he can pull the trigger the same way. Listen, that Ampo fight, the kickboxer that he had the exhibition with, he was also.
Did you see it?
I did see it. He was a tall guy who fought heavy on his front foot and had he had a very normal jab.
Well, a lot of kickboxers are front.
Yes, very front heavy. Front foot heavy is very, very common.
And Manny didn't look good in that.
Manny
one?
did not look good in that one. And I thought I agree with Robert. It was embarrassing. He was
Really?
getting beat
That bad?
He's getting
I
beat up by a
haven't
guy
seen
who really was not a boxer. And
It was
didn't look like a boxer.
For the fans that don't know, it was a K1 event that's kind of big in MMA. It's kind of bigger in my circles. A lot of MMA fans saw it.
It was a K1. They were kicking.
It was a K1 event. No. They were boxing. It was a K1 event. My point is, a lot of boxing fans didn't see it.
Yes.
A lot of MMA fans did because we're used to K1
yeah.
as a Japanese MMA
I watched it
promotion.
live.
Yeah. So that's why didn't look good in those exhibitions. But Robert, as a coach, can you coach somebody through everyone thinks of Roy Jones Jr., right? Explosive, very physical, athletic. When he lost those gifts, it wasn't like he could go back to his technique. He was so used to dropping his hands and doing all this unconventional stuff. Can you coach somebody around nature slowing you down if you're coaching Pacquiao for a comeback? It's not like he was a defensive specialist before. What do you do, coach?
No, you do train them. You train them hard. You train. You do whatever it is. With good running, good sparring. But you just have to be very aware that you might have to be ready to protect your fighter. Be ready to maybe stop the fight when it's necessary. Be ready to call it off if you don't see anything going on. Because in the gym, when the bell rings in the fight, it's a different story. It's a totally different story. Sometimes fighters look sensational in the gym, but then when the bell rings in the fight, they can't pull the trigger. It's just the way it is. I honestly, I go back to the same thing. At this point, I don't see Manny performing well. I see an embarrassment. I see, Barios is not the best at the division, but I think it could be a fight where Barios ends up actually hurting Manny.
Paulie, I have a question specifically for you because we talked about the movie Rush, right?
Yeah.
Great movie about racing.
Yeah.
When you're worried more about crashing than you are winning, it's over. Pull the car over.
Yeah.
A lot of what we're talking about is, man, I'm a little concerned. Are you more concerned than excited? I'm very curious.
Well, I'm concerned for sure because even the negativity I've said about Pacquiao, he's still a big name that has done a lot for our sport, and so I don't wish bad on anybody like that, like no matter what my thoughts have been on Pacquiao, it's not somebody I want to see get hurt. It's not somebody that I want to see have a negative light brought to him now at this point. And you mentioned the fact that, when you're more worried about crashing than winning, you're not as good. I don't know if Manny is the type that will ever be more worried about crashing than winning.
Yep,
Manny's always been a super competitor and he'll always be more worried about winning than crashing. But do you physically have it anymore? And from what you guys are telling me with the Korean guy and what I saw in the Ugas fight, it may not be there no matter how much you're willing to crash in order to go there. And then if you're willing to still crash at this age to go there, you're now going to hurt yourself. Yes. You're gonna, and I don't want to see that, honestly. I don't want to see that. But call me crazy. Because I think Barios sucks. I think this is intriguing. Like it's intriguing, and I don't know if that it kind of makes me kind of guilty, like kind of culpable of this because like dude, I'm gonna watch, dude, and I'm gonna watch and think like, dude, man, just saying, if he starts winning, he still got it.
Champ.
Still got it.
You just brought up 2 points that I've been thinking about.
Yeah.
Actually, number one, just to speak about Manny and how special he is. Listen, Marquez, that guy right behind you on the wall, he put Manny face down. In a fight.
And that was a shootout.
Brutal.
That was a shootout. But
brutal fight before that.
Shootout.
Yeah.
Right, of course. But I'm just saying, that moment, boom, you get knocked out like that, guys rarely come back.
Yeah.
Willing to put the more word.
And then he beat Thurman after that.
And
crashing and winning.
Beat the hell out of Thurman at that. Manny Pacquiao is something different. He's a warrior. I was like, I'm fighting a mini Genghis Khan. That's what I was thinking when I was fighting because there's not guys like him. He's gonna fight. He's a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has that mentality like you said, Champ. But that is also what makes him so dangerous.
It makes it dangerous.
So dangerous.
Makes it
so dangerous, right? Not him. But I'm gonna go back and think about the Spence. Remember Spence and Pacquiao were supposed to fight a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being like, nope, Spence is too big. I fought both these guys. It's just stylistically, it's just too big, too young. And then as we're getting closer to the fight, I'm like, I don't know, man. Manny might be able to pull something out here because he is that special.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I'm also going to be culpable because I'm going to sit there as we get closer to this fight and be like, hey, man, Manny might do it. Manny
but
might do it.
Here's the thing now. All intents and purposes, I don't know if Manny's got enough left.
Yeah. No,
But
from what he's shown lately.
What draws me in
is just Manny.
it's Manny, but it's also that Mario Barrios sucks. Like I'm telling, like I call
This is a man driven by negativity to my right. I love it.
It's
It's just
some of the comments be like, "Oh, Paulie, what were you?" No, bro. No. All right, bro. I fought all top level guys, beat some, lost some. I was constantly at a high level. Like I don't even make the comparison. My fundamentals, my speed, my explosiveness were all way higher level than Mario Barrios, bro. It's not even a comparison. And I fought in a way deeper division when I was champion in the two divisions I was in. Way deeper. It's not even a comparison. All right? For skill, for comparison of level of competition, for everything. So don't even go there. And the wins that I had, mind you. Second of all, again, like I was going back to what I was saying. First of all, before I got myself lost on my own resume. Sorry, guys.
He does that.
It's the coffee that I just had. The espresso from Donnie. But it's part of it is that, you know, like it's if it was a strong welterweight, like I said at the top of the show, I don't think we'd see Manny in this situation. He wouldn't come back.
Well, the
He's picking his
Manny
moment.
disappeared was because the top of the division was Crawford.
He's picking his moment, which is smart, but also, hey, man, it's not so much does Manny still got it. It's maybe this guy sucks just enough to where Manny maybe even a shot Manny can pull it off, and if it's close, maybe gets a decision, and we see something special.
Again, I'm not going to say he sucks. I'm just going to say that stylistically matches up.
But I do say this. Everybody in history has to pick their spots. I think everybody in history at a certain point. Remember when Pernell Whitaker was trying to go up to 154 pounds?
Yes.
He picked the weakest of the bunch, and it still wasn't a weak guy. I mean, like Julio Cesar Vasquez wasn't a weak guy, but he had. Remember, Vasquez has a win over Winky Wright. You know, was looking back after at the time he got it, it wasn't a big deal. But then looking at what Winky ended up accomplishing, that win Vasquez had over Winky Wright, it's a big deal. But Pernell Whitaker beat Julio Cesar Vasquez. You know, at 154 pounds. Terry Norris is there at 154. Other guys were there at 154, but Pernell chose Julio Cesar Vasquez. So you do pick your moment and spot to get the championship. And I think that's what Pacquiao's doing. This is what he's attempting.
It's a perfect storm.
And so, again, it creates a conversation point like we're talking here. It creates the curiosity. Is Manny good enough? No, but maybe Mario Barrios sucks just enough that where it's like, oh, we're balancing the scales a little bit, and we may see something special. I'm just saying.
All right.
Just saying.
I'm going to let you guys in on. I want to ask you your opinion about this, Coach. My dad was a pool hustler back in the day. All right, Long Beach, Cerritos, Bellflower, that
Pool
area.
shark.
The pool shark. Yeah, and he said the key to a con is hope. You don't blow them off the table. You beat them by one shot. Then they put more money down. Then you beat them by one shot.
That's like White Man Can't Jump.
Right.
Same kind of
You
thing on the
don't
basketball court.
Exactly. You don't blow them off the court because then they're not going to bet any more money.
Yeah.
What you're saying is just enough hope to maybe put that money in there. A coach,
no, money's coming in no matter what.
No matter what. But coach. A coach isn't allowed hope, right? A coach has to fundamentally know what he's got in front of him and what is ready to go if his guy is ready. How stressful is that, Robert? When once again, I've got two boxing experts that are intrigued by this fight. The fans are going to be intrigued by this fight. The coach can't allow himself any illusions. How hard is it maybe dealing with a guy who doesn't have it and the rest of society thinks he does, man? What's that like to deal with?
I see that in the gym all the time. Yeah. We see it in the gym with fighters that want to continue, that think they could still do it. And I've prepared them. They do well in the gym. They do well in sparring. But when the bell rings, they can't perform. They can't pull the trigger. It's just, I think at this time, whoever works with Manny, they got to protect him. They got to be aware that they have to do some, maybe stop the fight if he starts getting hurt. Picking Barrios being maybe the easiest of the welterweight division. Maybe we could expect. Is there a chance? Maybe there is, but it's at me personally, I would prepare him just because it's a big event. It's a great fight, for the fans. It's going to be a great event in Vegas. Okay, let him do it, but be prepared. Be prepared to save him because at this point, I don't think there's much left for Manny, and it could actually be pretty. It could be embarrassing. It could hurt. It could hurt Manny, and it could hurt the team. It could hurt boxing because I don't see anything special. I would love to see Manny become champion again. I would love to see Manny perform and bring back boxing and bring back all the Filipinos and excitement to boxing because that's what he did. Mexicans love Manny, but I think it's just too late.
Robert, you are so pragmatic. You're like, because you fought Manny how many times? How many times you been in the opposite corner against Manny?
Twice.
Twice.
Brandon Rios and Antonio Margarito.
Yeah,
Yes.
you've seen what he can do in there,
Correct.
and you're still sticking to, hey man, this is probably not going to go well. This is going to be a really dangerous thing, and that's why you're one of the best coaches in the game. You see things for what they are.
Because I see it in the gym. I see it in the gym. I see it with fighters. I see it with fighters right now that even young fighters that might have been knocked out once in their career, and then they just can't come back the same anymore because it could happen in one single fight. It does happen.
Coach Garcia, you talked about where you've seen guys in the gym have it, and then fight night comes and they don't have it. Is there a way to sort of get away from that in any way? Does it matter training smarter, not harder, to where they save something for the fight? Maybe they were training like when they were young, and then by the time they get to the fight, they don't have it. Is there anything that can be done, or is that just all psychological and aging?
Look, me as a coach, we do less rounds of sparring. Obviously, we do maybe give them a day during the week to rest and recover a little bit more. We have to do stuff like that. But when the bell rings in the fight, it's just a different story, man. Especially you got a young talented fighter in front of you. It's just a different story. Yeah, you have to do whatever it takes to prepare your fighter. Like I said, maybe a lot less rounds in sparring. Instead of doing 3 rounds, 3 days, 3 days a week, we just do one or two, and protect through his sparring. We have to do stuff like that. I see it all the time in the gym.
Oh, it's one of those things where it's a huge name. It will be announced hopefully soon. Right now they're saying late summer for Barios versus Pacquiao. We'll see if they make an actual announcement, Paulie.
I want to just adjust before everybody misunderstands me. Mario Barios sucks as far as champions are concerned. He doesn't suck overall, but comparison to world champions, he sucks.
And the history 147. We're so used to that. These guys being
the worst, but
pound for pound kings.
But I'm comparing them to champions. Like if I compare you to boxing in general, he's a fighter, he's a boxer. Champions have a higher standard. That's why I say.
That being said,
on that standard, he sucks.
That
on
being
that
said,
standard,
Manny got beat by a kickboxing exhibitionist.
Yeah, I know. That's why you're just going. But who knows? Maybe that kicks up boxing exhibitionist is intense enough to where he'd give Mario Barios a run for his money. Bro, Mario Barios is a front foot heavy guy who's 5'10", who doesn't bang. He tries to box. If you're a banger and you're front foot heavy, all right, you're a hooker. It's almost expected. You're gonna get hit more. Mario Barios is attempting to box you. And he's front foot heavy.
And he pounded,
he's confused.
It's like lead eye. And Ugas is a tricky southpaw.
But Ugas was coming off the beating for Spence. That's my only silver lining here. Is it the same Ugas that beat Manny? Because then we got a problem. But is Ugas completely worn out after this? Because Spence really wore him out too, right? Yeah. So if maybe it was a different Ugas. So maybe you're telling me there's a chance, with Manny. I don't know. Let's wait and watch.
What I love is Paulie's going to be the hype man. When this fight is announced, he'll do all the press for it, because when I'm listening to you, I think there might be a chance.
I'm just saying.
As it gets announced, it'll make news right here on Boxing Scene Today. Join us. Find out why millions are watching.